Am I concerned when it comes to Beam? The answer is absolutely not, because even though I'm still thinking about 25 cents, and even though it's not necessarily the easiest thing to kind of even think about currently, but you know what? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, the way you take a look at it is that less than a year ago, right, back in December of 2024, Beam, in terms of market cap, was over 6 times what it is right now. That's kind of, fascinating for me to even think about, actually, because that wasn't even a year ago. Granted, ever since then, Beam has pretty much just been completely going down, pretty much. But then still, the way you take a look at it is that it did that without an altcoin season, in my perspective. And that was less than a year ago. It's not like it was many, many years ago. Literally, that was just less than a year ago. Granted, a lot of things can happen within a year. Totally aware of that, especially within this space. But if I take a look at it, it did that without an altcoin season. Also, on top of that, it wasn't even that long ago. And I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during the cycle, so I just don't know why I would give up on it. I mean, it's kind of already done its thing a little bit without an altcoin season, so if there was an altcoin season, what could it do? Only time will tell, but if it did do better than back then, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. This is my mentality. But here's the thing. Sometimes people like to say, oh, but blockchain gaming, it's already kind of done. It's already done its thing back in 2021. Well, again, Beam is primarily focused on blockchain gaming, and without an altcoin season, it did that back in December of last year. You know what I mean? It's nothing like too, I think, outlandish for me to even see. Like, okay, if I just take a look at Beam just going back again to what it did back in December in terms of market cap, already over a 6x from here. That's really fascinating for me to see. It's had that much of a pullback. Typically, right, when these altcoins, when the market is not doing good, they typically have a really big pullback and way bigger than more of the established projects out there. But then these type of altcoins that have this kind of like medium-sized market cap, during, let's say, an altcoin season, or during, let's say, a time when, the space is doing better, typically we see some of them outperforming some of the giants, like for instance, an Ethereum or like a Bitcoin, right? But then we kind of haven't had that chance as of late to see that yet when it comes to Beam, whereas we kind of did see a pretty good glimpse of it not too long ago. But I haven't given up because I feel like fundamentally nothing bad happened to Beam. And when the price isn't doing good and the sentiment when it comes to altcoins are not doing good, what I often think about is what is the space that the project is focused on, right? If the project is focused on a space where I don't think it has a really bright future, then that's a different case. But I still believe in blockchain gaming. It's still pretty popular. It's still an emerging market, I feel like. And also on top of that, we've seen time and time again, usually when the altcoin space has a pretty good rally, some of these blockchain gaming projects typically go along with the ride. Not every single one, I would say, but then we do see some of them. And Beam, to a certain extent, kind of showcased that even less than a year ago. But even besides that point, people like to tell me, okay, why aren't you too concerned with low prices? Well, it's because if my intention is the dollar cost average and the price is low, and of course I don't want low prices forever, but if it's like, for a moment in time kind of low, it's not nothing I would necessarily complain about too much because, if I can dollar cost average even more and the price is, let's say, lower, I'm not going to complain about that. And the thing about Beam is this. People like to say, oh, the market cap is now below 300 million. Like, oh, wow, what is this and all this type of stuff? Well, if anything, if it just went to like a $600 million market cap, that's already over a 2x from here. You know what I mean? Slightly over, I should say. Imagine what Ethereum would need to do over a 2x from right now. It'd have to go to 8 grand, right? So, just the way to take a look at it. It's not like Beam has to have a 10 billion extra dollars in market cap or something like that to do a 2x. That is not the case. Just reaching a market cap of 600 million is already over a 2x from here. So even if, let's say, for whatever reason, Beam just went to like, $600 million in market cap, or let's say just for simplicity's sake, like a billion, right? So it did slightly over 3x. Even if it only did that, that is something I would much rather prefer than something like Bitcoin or Ethereum currently. This is just my perspective. I'm not telling them to do anything, because in order for Ethereum to do over 3x, right, it would have to reach the price of over 10 grand. Like Bitcoin, in order to do over 3x, it'd have to reach over 300 grand. So this is just my point of view. But I'm not telling you to do anything. But even besides that, if I take a look at the idea of 25 cents, it's around a 48x from here. Market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 12.5 billion. Now we're on a 48x, I get it. It's a ways away. But again, just even going to like $1 billion in market cap is already over 3x from here. And also, I feel like around a $12.5 billion market cap just doesn't seem like too ridiculous of a market cap to me. It's not like it's 100 billion or 150 billion or something like that. And also on top of that, Beam just, let's say, right, going to 12.5 cents. So we're talking about around a 24x from here. Even at that point, I'd much rather prefer that over BNB, over, something like Ethereum, like Bitcoin, something like Solana, for instance. I mean, again, those projects are massive. I don't know if they could even do over a 20x in the next 5 months, arguably. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't think I've seen altcoin season during this cycle, but I just don't want to give up like that. Because, again, I still like blockchain gaming. I still like what Beam is focused on. Sure, Beam isn't necessarily the most popular project out there of all time, but when I think about blockchain gaming, Beam is pretty popular when it comes to it. Blockchain gaming has a lot of competitors, like there's a lot of projects within this space, but there's not that many that are that established. It's kind of like, I think, an easier entry, or should I say the entry barrier is lower for typically these type of projects to be focused on blockchain gaming. Because quite frankly, a lot of these projects that are focused on blockchain gaming, they don't really do anything, right? They don't really launch anything. They just say they're focused on that. And then for whatever reason, they just do pretty well. But then Beam has more of an established track record. It's already kind of there. And even though it's in a space where there's I think, lower barrier to entry, there is a higher barrier to kind of become more established, right? To be one of the main players. So when it comes to Beam, it's already kind of achieved that. It's already kind of had that established nature within blockchain gaming. It's already kind of proven some things. Like for instance, we've seen, one of the main components of Beam, which is, the SDK, or should I say software development kit, that's what it stands for. We've seen pretty okay, exposure when it comes to that. So it's already kind of done its thing a little bit. There's still ways to go in the grand scheme of things, but it's still pretty impressive. I still like this space. Even according to Grandview Research, the blockchain gaming market is expected to be worth over $300 billion by 2030. So, I'm still staying patient, and I'm just waiting. But I'm not concerned, actually. When it comes to Beam, I just don't know why I would give up on it. I've already seen what it did less than a year ago, and I'm still staying patient. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. I still like the fundamentals. If the fundamentals became bad, right, or became worse, then that's a different case. I don't think anything bad fundamentally happened to it. So I'm just going to still stay patient, hold, and I just wait. I'm not telling you to do anything, but this is personally what I'm doing. And again, I'm not concerned. And I'm staying patient for a moment in time in which we maybe do see an altcoin season. Who knows? Only time will tell. However, I don't think I've seen one during this cycle, which is why I'm still staying patient. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a nice day. It's Malik the Captain. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.